Good morning.
Good morning.
So,
Good morning.
Josie, where are you?
So I am in Napa again. I'm back in
Okay.
Napa this
Okay.
week for one more full week, and
Okay.
then I'll be flying home to meet up with you.
Okay, perfect. So I just wanted to get that out of the way real quick because we're in three different places, three different women. And today we have with us Christie Huben, Hubenauer. I say that often.
We
Christie
do that, yeah.
Obenauer. Yeah. She's our guest today, and you're in Bismarck. I'm in Bismarck today, so we are
Yeah.
technically in the same place. But Christie's our guest today. Christie is the CEO and president of Union State Bank. And in North Dakota, I'll say, because there's multiple locations in North Dakota, correct, Christie?
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah. How
Yes.
many locations?
In Mercer County.
In Mercer
We
County
just
only?
are, yep,
Okay.
in Hazen, Beulah, then Stanton, and we have a grocery store location in Hazen also.
Yes, yeah. Okay, great. So Christie and I technically have known each other since we were in the fourth grade. We figured that out as grown adults that we were at Camp of the Cross together at the same time.
Yeah.
And so, but we have recently connected in our later years. And so, yeah, we invited Christie to be a guest today because Christie, I say this, I've said this multiple times. Christie's really good with words. Christie is fun to talk to because she is great with words and she's interesting. And so tell us a little bit about yourself. I know that's not a great lead in, but you're good at these
Yeah.
things. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, every story matters, right?
Yeah.
Every story matters. So, and everyone has a story. So, I am originally from Hazen, Hazen Beulah area where I live now. And I grew up in a banking family. What Andy was mentioning, that I run Union State Bank, that's my family's bank. We've been around since 1908. So I'm the fourth generation in my family to lead our family's organization. That was not my that's not what I wrote on my phonics paper when I was in elementary school, when the question was posed about what do you want to be when you grow up. I don't think, not when many, especially young girls, would say I want to be a banker. But I went to college in southern Minnesota at St. Olaf and graduated with degrees in economics and political science. And I think just because I knew the language and the industry, I worked part-time while I was in school for a bank called Norwest, which is now Wells Fargo, and all across the US, but it was certainly very Midwest oriented when I was at that age. And then I graduated from there, worked for Norwest Bank for a number of years before I moved to Idaho, where I worked for a regional size bank. And then I moved back to Hazen, Beulah area in 2002 to run my family's bank ultimately. So mostly grew up in the lending space in my professional lane, but certainly as a bank leader, we get familiar with all aspects of the financial services industry, and I feel very strongly about the importance of continuing to ensure that banking continues to be about people and not just transactions. It's about people, and that's what I'm passionate about, is relationships and people and community, and creating cultures where people have an opportunity to grow into their strengths and learn about one another. It's kind of me in a nutshell.
So I have a quick thought on that right off the bat. Is like, okay, so how do you keep banking about people when at the end of the day there's so many criteria that have to be met for most transactions? So, I think about days when deals were made with a handshake, right?
Yeah.
And even in my bank, I've worked with my bank for many years and they know me very well. But there are certain times when I've gone to them for help and they can't help me because on paper things don't work out, right? When they are just like,
Yeah.
we know you and we know that we could fine with this, but they can't do it. So how do you keep that moving when in an industry where there are some pretty strict requirements that people have to meet in order to process transactions?
Mm-hmm. I think it's such a good question, Andy. And I think this conversation is relevant across so many industries that are moving away from face-to-face connection and into digitizing everything. I think it's about being intentional and paying attention, and recognizing that at the end of the day, people in relationships are why we are here. Connection is why we are here. I happen to be in an industry where I'm connecting with people to help them achieve their goals in life, whether that's financial or about owning property or a business or something like that. And in your business, each of your businesses, you're serving people in your own lane for that same purpose, to help them become the best version of themselves. I think that's what we're here to do ultimately. And so because the financial services industry, especially banking, is so heavily regulated, I one of the things that's really important for me and in the work that I do, especially in this chapter of my career and my life, is to make sure that we have a seat at the table. As a female, that's another piece of it. But as a banker who's representing smaller communities from a smaller flyover state, to be at a table in Washington, D.C., where regulations are being crafted that might be, they might miss the reason why they're doing it in the first place, which is for the benefit of a consumer or a business, a small business. So I think it's important to stay going back to being intentional and paying attention, making sure that we are amplifying the stories of who we serve so it doesn't get overlooked. At the end of the day, I really think that when maybe for your day-to-day stuff, making a deposit, cashing a check, depositing your paycheck, doing all of that digitally allows us to capitalize on efficiencies. But when you have a problem to solve, or when you are dreaming about where you want your business or your family to go, being in relationship with someone who knows your story and your family and your roots and your gifts matters. It just matters to be in relationship with people. So I think it's just about paying attention and being intentional and growing a culture that allows for that to flourish, for that type of relationship to continue to flourish.
I just wrote that down. What are your favorite clients to work with? Like, do you have your favorite people that come in and you're like, ooh, this is going to be fun. Like, I can't wait to work with this person.
Yeah. I really love people, period. So the over the course of my career, the people that have been challenging, getting curious, and I mean challenging in terms of maybe they've had some financial difficulties, or maybe they're just difficult to deal with, or to get curious about is probably a better way to frame that. It's an opportunity to dig deeper into understanding who they are and where they're going, and tell me more about why you're frustrated or that kind of thing. But I guess at the surface, in response to that question, Josie, it would be people who come to our desk, so to speak, come in and say, I have a dream. It sounds a little bit like I'm making some sort of a political statement or referencing a quote, but it's about, I have a picture in my head about what I want to see happen. Can you help me figure it out? And then we get to backfill with programs and platforms that help them climb on to the space where they can build what they see. And then we elevate it, and then that evolves, and it's never without its challenges, because that is how life is. And then we walk alongside them through both the successes and the challenges, and those are our favorites when we can get to the end of a career with a client when they're retiring out or selling their business or whatever. And like, I did what I thought I wanted to do in the world. And now I'm set to do the things that I'm intending to do in this last third of my life or whatever it is. That's the most gratifying.
Very cool. I bet you've seen a
Christy,
lot of shifts. Oh, sorry, Andy.
no, go
I bet
ahead.
you've seen
No,
a
go
lot of
ahead.
shifts in culture and in banking in general over the years. Like, what were some of the biggest ones that were like, well, we need to, like, I don't know, figure it out. Like, it's changed.
Yeah. Um, oh boy. We could go on and on about this, but I'll tell you the first thing that comes to mind has to do with being a female in this industry. Um, and it's kind of it's maybe a little bit shallow perhaps, but it speaks to a bigger issue. There was always dress codes about how a banker should look. When I was early in my career in my 20s, I remember having a client who called us, me and the business banking team, the suits. And I remember thinking that I bet that's off-putting because we don't look like you show up to work. It is that intimidating, and is that what we're trying to do here? Is that what we're trying to do? Be across the desk from someone um and make them feel uncomfortable? That's the wrong approach because talking about money is paralyzing enough for many people. And women, of course, have had more institution around them as we've grown up and we've had to chip away at all the glass around us. So I remember coming back home. My uncle was the CEO at the time, and we still had rules about our dress code was still about we required us to wear stockings and closed-toed shoes and skirts and all the things. This is not that long ago.
Yeah.
And I said to him, we got to change this up. I'm going to do a fashion show for you and show you how it looks if I'm wearing a dress and no pantyhose and it's good. Or I wear sandals or heels that my toes show and I can still look professional. So I did a little fashion show for him and he's like, okay, I think it's time for us to change. So losing our stuffiness and making sure we're more approachable. Even things like I was just at a conference a couple of weeks ago where there was some conversation about, how do you, this is having to do with human resources. How do you approach employees that have tattoos, for example, or they've colored their hair pink or something? And I'm like, well, do they look like your customers? Then it's exactly right. If your people look like your customers, that's exactly right. So that's just about having a voice and making sure that we are in relationship, we're comfortable to be around. So that's maybe just a cultural evolution that I've certainly been a part of in the number of decades I've been in this industry. And that's creating space for women, just to show up as your authentic self. And then just in terms of the industry itself, there has been so much disruption. The latest, I could tell a million stories, but everything going electronic, going digital is probably the most profound change that the financial services industry has been experiencing. And of course, that's been happening over time. But I think we are entering the fourth industrial revolution period. Across all industries, and that certainly it creates disruption for us in the banking industry. So there is a bill that was just passed called the Genius Act that creates, it's complicated, but it creates what's called a stable coin, which is basically just a different type of currency. It's like a digital currency, and that will change a lot of things about our industry. So I have said often in the spaces where I have a seat at the table that the pace at which everything is changing makes us feel like, I've used the analogy of, and we get this well in North Dakota, when you're driving on black ice and your car starts to slip, and instead of fighting it, we know how to do this, right? We grew up here. You turn into the slide, and you wait until you can find some traction again so you can stay on the road. That's where we're at right now.
Oh.
And the uncertainty, the ground that feels unstable, that's slipping beneath us while we are trying to figure it out, takes a lot of trust amongst each other. It takes a lot of communication so that we don't lose our way, so we don't go off the road, but also just embracing the groundlessness of the world we're living in today. So, and that is hard. My team is in the middle of a project where we are learning about change fatigue alongside doing some leadership development work. And as much as I would say it, that I'm an embracer of change, the truth is change is a million goodbyes and a million hellos. So that's hard to let go of what was and embrace what's coming when it's not wrapped in certainty. So we're in it right now, and I'm sure each of you could speak to that in your own industries, or the industries that your colleagues and your customers are inside too. It feels untethered, and that's scary, which is why culture matters so much. So we create an environment where people feel seen, heard, and valued and safe, so that they can say, man, I don't get what's happening here. And we just lean in, like, stay on your horse, sister. We're going to figure this out. The dust will settle eventually, but it's foggy out there.
Yeah. Well, and I would think it makes a huge difference because you run a big team, I'm sure. So keeping your team wanting to move forward with you through change, I mean, that's a lot. What do you think?
Yeah.
I would say North
Isn't it?
Dakotans are not known for they're not known for embracing change, right? I mean,
Right.
I hate to pigeonhole us, but I think we just aren't known for that, right? People around here don't adapt to change as easily, I think.
Yeah. It's
Say that's true.
certainly. Yes, I think certainly there's if we're more conservative generally
Yes.
about anything, and I'm not talking just politics, but just conservative about life, we might be slower to step our toe to the edge, right?
Yeah.
And that's I think even more why it's important to create some cohesion, because it feels safer when you're not alone. You're jumping into the abyss holding hands instead of just on your own. But it also, I think, it's going to be really important for us, again, in every space where we are doing business, or we are trying to flourish. It's going to be important for us to embrace change and be open to it. I use Brene Brown's concepts a lot in her Dare to Lead work in particular, but a lot of things. And on a wall, one of our walls in the bank, I have a saying, strong backs, soft fronts, wild hearts. And that's really about ensuring that we show up in spaces and that we're open. The soft fronts is just being about being open to change and each other, and having a sense of generosity about intention with one another. And wild hearts is really just about embracing change and openness to the human condition. So, but you're right, Andy, it's hard. And isn't it interesting? I've thought about how most of us came here because we had ancestors that were pioneers. Talk about embracing uncertainty. Right? So they got here and they're like, it's just a prairie that I got to figure out how to make a tool and dig into the dirt and build a house out of sod and, all the things. And of course, look what we've done. Here we are. Look what we've done. And so we know that's in our DNA, to be like, I can look at a landscape and say, I can figure this out. I can work can work hard and figure out how to make something new of what was ultimately. But I think you're right, Andy, that of course, it's comfortable to be comfortable.
Yeah.
I do
Yes.
love that. I mean, we kind of say that like the resistance to change in the area, but we gather information before we make decisions. And I think that
Mhm.
that's important too. Like, it doesn't seem um, like we don't drift as much as other parts of the country and world actually at this
Yeah.
point. Like, um, I feel like core values are very important in our area, and that was kind of
Yeah.
like instilled in me, right?
Yeah.
Making decisions based off of the core values versus what society is saying. And
Yeah.
that's cool.
I agree. I think that that there is definitely a deep sense of otherness, so we're aware of people around us, and we are generally thoughtful about how is this move going to affect other people. How can I make sure I'm still in service to, and showing unconditional love in the decisions that we need to make as an organization or in our lives, or whatever. So I think you're right, Josie, that and thank goodness for that, that
Yeah,
there's
right.
that's about rootedness.
Yeah, for sure.
Hmm.
Tell us about your personal life a little bit. Like, what do you got going on in outside of the banking walls?
So as Andy knows, I have three kids that are grown. I have a 26-year-old son here in Bismarck and a 24-year-old son in Fargo and a 21-year-old daughter in Fargo. She's still in school, and the middle son is a nurse, and my oldest is in the trucking industry. And I think part of the chapter of life I'm in, as Glennon Doyle would say, um, is learning how to be in connection with my kids while they kill the parent, so to speak, because they don't need me as a parent. They get to choose us if we show up and are open. There's that strong backs, wild hearts, soft fronts, and just being a good listener. So that's about relationships evolving over time. And then I also think one of the biggest challenges for me personally right now is, and it's probably just a middle of life thing, and being in this chapter of my career is, and Andy teaches me a lot about this amongst other friends, finding space, finding pause and time for me. I think that's a big struggle for women, maybe women executives in particular, but every moment that I'm not moving, literally or figuratively, feels like I might not be producing, and then I don't have value. So, and I don't want that for my kids. I don't want that for my daughter. I don't want that for my team, my bank family. So, how can I learn from them really, and other women in particular around me, about it is okay to prioritize time for yourself. I love to read. I love to read things that aren't about banking or leadership, but I don't do that very often because
Right.
it feels frivolous. Um, Again, Andy's taught me about, it's okay to go to a spa and have a massage or take care of yourself, because when the cup's empty, we can't fill anybody else's. That is a really, that's a really challenging chapter for me right now, is finding um, peace, protecting my peace, and saying yes to myself about being still. So
Well,
do you
and
have thoughts about that?
I think you said something really interesting in that, where you said if you're not moving, and correct me if I'm not saying this right, but said if you're not moving, you're not you're not producing, you're not doing anything of
Valuable.
value, which is like, it's so I hit that stage maybe 10 to 12 years ago, where I thought to myself, every job I've ever had, all I wanted to do is get up to that next level, right? And just keep moving up. And then one
Right.
day I thought to myself, why? Why is it that I feel like if I'm here, I don't have as much value as if I would be up here?
Right.
And it really made me stop and think about what is it that, what value do I need to have
Yeah.
to feel good, or to feel like I'm bringing something to the table? Because quite frankly, all of that movement up the ladder, all it did was add stress and years to my life. You know what I mean? Or take years away from my life.
Right.
Quite honestly, I thought I woke up one day and I thought, I'm gonna have a heart attack before I'm 50 if I don't stop this.
Yeah.
And what, for what reason? Why am I doing this? You know,
Yeah.
money, or there, I don't know,
Yeah.
because I thought it was my only way of having value.
Yeah.
And that took me a long time to really think that one through, about all the ways we do bring value to the world without it having to be constantly measurable.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know,
Like, whose measuring stick is it? Right? Whose
exactly,
measuring stick?
exactly.
Yeah, it's sort of questioning the institution, like I was mentioning earlier. So, Andy, I'm curious, what do you, in that chapter, what do you feel like you were doing to reflect on that, to really maybe force yourself to be like, what am I going for here?
Well, I mean, I wasn't huge on reflection back then. I just really realized that I looked around at the people that I worked with. Seriously, I sat in a room and I looked at these people, and they were all men. They were all
Yeah.
men. And I thought, none of them had healthy relationships. Many of them were, you know, struggling in their relationships. I'll just put it that way. A lot of them were alcoholics. I was struggling in my relationship. I drank more than I should. You know what I mean? There was just a lot of
Yes.
parallels. And I literally thought any one of them, their heads could explode at any minute. They were so stressed out, right?
Yeah.
And just like a hamster on a wheel.
Yeah.
And as was I. And I just thought, I don't want to live like this.
Yeah.
It just, something hit me, and I thought, I don't want to live like this. And why am I living like this? Why am I? You know, and that's what really, for me, that's why I went to a school for aesthetics. And I mean, people thought I was insane, thought I was crazy. And I probably was, but it led me to a whole different kind of life, where I do have time for reflection, right? And I do have time to grow, and I do have time to connect with amazing other women, people, whatever, and had brought value to my life in a completely different way than what I thought was value. I didn't realize really all the great things that could come to my life, just by taking a different path.
Yeah. Yeah. Like we get farther by slowing down instead of speeding up.
Right. Or again, just staying on a wheel and not being willing to change, right? And not being open to where life is, because ultimately, we've talked about this many times. Life does take you where you should go if you just pay attention.
Right.
You know? Hard thing is, we don't always pay attention.
Yeah. Well, we're not still enough.
Yeah.
To listen to the cues. What's been your experience with that, Josie?
Oh man. Well, I feel like I think it's awesome where, like, I'm thinking of your stages, right? And getting up to that point, and how gratifying and influential you are being there. And I don't think it's a wrong path. Like, I don't think it's wrong to want to keep growing, but knowing your value the whole time and being able to listen is the biggest piece to me. You know, as I told you before we hopped on and started recording, is I'm on a year break-ish right now. And my practice was awesome. I loved everything that I had going on there. But it was because of conversations with Andy and the people around me that I tend to get a lot of wisdom from my friends. I have a very, very small but awesome group of friends. And it was like that. Like, I saw people who were, going through the motions, And I felt like I could go there and then I'd have a conversation with these gals and it would bring me back down to like, oh wait, what's real for me, you know?
Yeah.
Um, that was that was one big piece on why I kept praying on like, hey, do I need what's next for me? What do I need to do?
Yeah.
And just being able to take the courage to take the break and take the rest. Um, I'm 37, so I've been going through school until I was 26, right? And then then you're like student loans and you're just like
Yeah.
really trying to just make things
Yeah.
happen. And then you start a business and then you're like, oh my gosh, this is the hardest thing I've ever, ever done. And so you
Mm.
just keep going and going and going. But as soon as I slowed down, everything kind of fell into place every time. So I had like these little hints of that. And I'm just really, really fortunate that I never got to the point that I felt like I was somewhere and I didn't know how I got there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't, I'm very, very lucky in that. And Brene Brown, like the people that you've mentioned that you read, like they're just so, like those things are so important to
Yeah.
just give you a little perspective.
Yeah.
Um, and, and I don't know, like I don't think I'll ever regret taking a rest from things. I don't think I will. I think whatever is next is just going to unfold just great. And it doesn't it was about like this rest was about finding value outside of my career. And I hate to say that because my career is amazing and it's beautiful and like taught me so much about health and the body and vitality, like that's just what we our philosophy is in chiropractic. So luckily I had that base,
Yeah.
but as my vitality started to change or I felt like it was moving in the wrong direction, I was like something isn't quite right.
Yeah.
And because I did have value in my career, like it mattered how many patients I saw, or like I'd hire coaches and things, and like, what's your goal? What's your goal? And I'd hit a goal, and I was like, what's the next goal? Like, it was never like you just settled into it for a minute.
Yeah.
But in hindsight, I don't think that's necessarily wrong. But placing the value on the goal is where I kind of needed to reset on it, really.
I think I just said this last week at that marketing conference I was telling you two about before we got online. Um, I think we fall prey to, I'm sorry, I think we fall prey to scarcity economics quite a bit. Can you still hear me? Sorry, I was getting a call. Can you hear
Yep,
me?
you're back. Yep,
Am I back?
you're back.
Okay. I think we fall prey to scarcity economics quite a bit, where it's like, well, if I don't just continue, it's going back to that producing thing, then it's going to miss me. Whatever it is that I'm supposed to be moving towards is going to miss me. And we get out of balance. I don't really love that word balance because we say that somehow, well, you don't have good work-life balance. Well, what is that? It's different in different chapters, but it's about in that pie that is our lives, work or career or whatever, taking up 95% of it. And we think we have to close that last 5% with production. And the truth is what you just said, Josie, is exactly right. Like create what you need, create what you need, but pay attention to what your body and what the universe really is saying to you about what that looks like. Otherwise, everyone else will tell you.
Yeah.
Everyone else and scarcity economics, the world, society, all of its dysfunction will tell us what we should be pursuing instead of looking inward. I'm still learning about that, obviously, but you make a great point that the universe puts people in our circles that help point out the whispers. So I think it's about paying attention to that.
Have you, over the years, have your friend groups changed along the way?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And I really think it's important to embrace that there was an old saying about, it's a friend for a reason, friend for a season, friend for life, something like that. And to Andy's point, we go way back to Camp of the Cross days, and I'm sure each of you have friends like that where you might have met him or it was a childhood friend and then there's a 20-year gap and then you reconnect. I've got several of those. And there was a reason for that. during that chapter of my life when I was raising children and all the things, you don't have time to be, it's just not the right time to stay connected to every single person. But then when someone shows back up or a new person enters your life and you have something to give and they have something to give to you in relationship, it's about embracing that. And when you notice there's a drift for whatever reason, just say thank you and let go. You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that I think people do have really struggle with that. Well, I know they do. I just had a conversation with a friend the other day and she was mourning a friendship that had just kind of, disintegrated sort of, and she couldn't figure out why. And I mean, I've had so many of those over the years, and I think you do have to just embrace it. You have to be thankful for it and let it go.
Yep. Yeah.
Maybe they circle back, I hate that term, but maybe they circle back and you reconnect at some point, but just being thankful for those connections.
Yep. In the moment, all of it. Like, let's not hoard it. Let's love it and let it go.
Yeah.
I totally agree. You must have a rooster back there or something.
So,
it's awesome.
I'm so sorry. I had some wild bird that just came by, and there is a handful of chickens here too, which I'm so thankful for because I get amazing eggs every morning here. But but yes, the rooster is crowing, but I don't really know. It's not the time of day for it, right?
It's a message for us somehow.
I was gonna say, is that our signal? Have we gone?
Is that the alarm?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that baby is it. He's like, I need some peace and quiet. Stop talking.
Stop babbling.
Time for siesta.
Right. Well, I sure appreciate your time, Christie. It's been absolutely amazing.
Yeah, thank you for doing what you're doing in the world. I just having these, we talked about this at the beginning, but creating spaces where we can have organic conversations when, as I said earlier, our worlds get so overscheduled by the frenetic pace that we are asked to live it. And so just to really pause and be like, let's just have a conversation, and not have an agenda, not have a syllabus to guide us is so important to get to know one another and just ask open-ended questions and get curious, because we always learn something about ourselves as well as each other. So thank you for being you, the collective you that you two are in the world. Appreciate you.
We appreciate you, Christie. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we'll see you soon. Actually, I've been meaning to tell you, I'd love to have brunch on Sunday, so I will be there.
Okay, perfect. We'll do it.
Okay.
Awesome.
Have a great day.
Yep,
Thanks,
bye, everybody.
guys.